All right, let's dive into one of the most beautiful and, frankly, one of the most complicated countries on Earth. We're talking about a massive puzzle that stretches across 17,000 islands, a nation built, literally, on active volcanoes, covered in dense jungles, and home to hundreds of completely different cultures. This is the incredible story of Indonesia. Okay, first you've got to try and grasp the sheer scale of this place. We're talking about the world's largest island country, a chain of over 17,000 islands. To put that in perspective, if you were to lay it across a map of Europe, it would stretch all the way from Ireland to Iran. I mean, it is just massive. And it's absolutely packed with people. Over 270 million, in fact, which makes it the fourth most populous country in the entire world. But get this for perspective, just one of its islands, Java, has more people living on it than all of Russia. Just think about that for a second. And, that massive population is anything but uniform. Can you imagine a single country where people speak more than 700 distinct languages? Well, that's Indonesia. This isn't just a little bit of diversity, it's one of the most complex and vibrant linguistic tapestries on the entire planet. So you've got all this incredible human diversity, and underneath it all, a foundation of pure geological chaos. The entire nation sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire. We're talking over 130 active volcanoes. That's more than any other country on Earth. It's a really dangerous place to be. So all of this brings us to the big question, right? The real core of this whole explainer. How on earth does a nation like this even exist? How did this sprawling, incredibly diverse, and shaky collection of islands ever become one single country? And maybe even more important, how does it stay together? Well, to even begin to solve that puzzle, we have to go back. We have to look at how its borders were drawn in the first place. And here's the thing, they weren't drawn by local kings or ancient empires, but by foreigners, outsiders, chasing spices, wealth, and power. See, for centuries, this whole area was a collection of powerful, independent kingdoms. You had the Srivijaya kingdom, this incredible Buddhist trading empire based in Sumatra, and then later, the Majapahit Empire rose in Java, a Hindu empire famous for its art and governance. But then everything changed. The Europeans showed up looking for spices like cloves and nutmeg that were literally worth their weight in gold. The Portuguese were the first to arrive, but it was the Dutch and their massive corporation, the Dutch East India Company, who really took over. For the next 300 years, they basically forced all these different islands under one single colonial rule. Okay, so a foreign power drew the map. That's key. But here's the great irony of the story. The very thing that started to create a unified Indonesian identity was having a shared enemy to fight against. And the real catalyst for all of this? World War II. In 1942, Japan invaded and just kicked the Dutch right out. Now, at first, a lot of Indonesians thought, okay, maybe these guys are here to liberate us. But that hope faded really fast. The Japanese occupation was incredibly harsh, and it just fanned the flames, making that desire for real, genuine independence burn hotter than ever. So the second Japan surrendered in 1945, Indonesian leaders like Sukarno and Hatta didn't waste a minute. They declared independence. But of course, the Dutch weren't just going to let their most valuable colony go. And what came next was a tough 4-year war for independence. This fight, this Indonesian national revolution, this was the moment that really forged the nation. Fighting together, side by side, against a common enemy, that created a national bond that simply didn't exist before. But here's the thing, winning the war, that was actually the easy part. Now came the real challenge. Okay, we're free, but how in the world do we hold this incredibly diverse nation together now that our common enemy is gone? They started with a really powerful idea, something they captured in their national motto, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. It means unity in diversity. And the thinking behind it was just brilliant. The goal wasn't to make everyone the same, to erase all those differences. No, it was to say, hey, we can have all these different cultures, all these different languages, and still be one single nation. And one of the most strategic moves they made was all about language. See, they could have picked Javanese, which is spoken by the biggest ethnic group, but they didn't. Instead, they made the absolutely brilliant choice to go with Bahasa Indonesia. It was an old trading language, so it was ethnically neutral, and it was actually pretty simple to learn. This was a total game changer because it meant no single group could culturally dominate the new country. And if you look at the ethnic breakdown, you can see exactly why that language choice was so critical. The Javanese are the largest group, sure, but they're still only about 40% of the population. Nobody has a majority. So that whole unity and diversity idea, it isn't just some nice-sounding motto. It's an absolute political necessity. It's the only way to hold this whole puzzle together. So on top of the motto and the shared language, they also created a national ideology, a kind of shared set of beliefs called Panchasila. It's based on 5 core principles, things like belief in God, social justice, and national unity. It was another tool, really, a shared framework to help manage all the religious and social differences you find across the archipelago. But as we've said, the challenges facing Indonesia aren't just about politics or culture. They are literally etched into the land itself. This entire nation exists on a knife's edge. It is, without a doubt, one of the most geologically active and dangerous places you can live on this planet. I mean, the power of nature here is just staggering. Just think about the eruption of Krakatoa back in 1883. The explosion was so loud it was heard almost 5,000 kilometers away. It set off a huge tsunami that literally wiped entire villages off the map, killing tens of thousands of people. And that kind of threat, it's always there. It's a constant. And the threats aren't always explosive either. Some are slow and silent. Take the capital city, Jakarta. It is literally sinking. Why? Well, for one, people are pumping out enormous amounts of groundwater just for daily use, causing the land to collapse. Then you have rising sea levels from climate change, making it all worse. So what's the solution? Well, it's one of the most audacious plans you'll ever hear. Just build a brand new capital city called Nusantara from scratch on another island. And if all that wasn't enough, you have the simple, crushing reality of geography. I mean, how do you connect a country when there's always an ocean in the way? Just trying to build roads or get internet or provide basic services to 17,000 islands, it's an absolute infrastructural nightmare. And it's created this huge gap between the big developed cities and the thousands of remote, forgotten islands. So you take a step back and look at the whole picture. You've got this complex history, this unbelievable diversity, this violent ground beneath their feet, this fractured geography. Honestly, it sounds like a recipe for a country that shouldn't exist. And yet, it does. For over 75 years, this giant puzzle has somehow held together. So why? How? Well, it's clear Indonesia's unity is no accident. It's held together by a kind of special glue. And that glue is made of some really powerful stuff. A shared history fighting colonialism, a revolution that gave everyone a common goal, and those incredibly smart choices they made about their national motto, their language, and their state ideology. But you know, what really binds it all together is just sheer resilience, a toughness that comes from living in a place that's constantly testing you. And so that leaves us with one final big question. Is Indonesia a finished masterpiece, a shining example of how to build a nation? Or is it still a fragile puzzle that could, under all that immense pressure, still fall apart? One thing is for sure. Governing a nation like this is a constant balancing act, and its future is, without a doubt, one of the most fascinating and important experiments on our planet.